Hi students, welcome back to computer class. So today we are moving on to a new chapter, chapter number 7. Chapter name is An Introduction to Game Creation. Okay, so in our last chapter, that is in chapter number 6, we started studying about Scratch programming language. In that particular chapter, we studied what do you mean by a Scratch programming language, what do you mean by a sprite, how to add a new sprite onto the stage, okay, how to work with multiple sprites. Then we studied what do you mean by a backdrop and how to work with multiple backdrops, and at last we saw what do you mean by a green flag button. Okay, these were the topics that we covered in chapter number 6. Okay, and in this chapter number 7 we are going to study how to create games by using this Scratch programming language. Okay, and in this chapter, we will mainly study how to create a game and a quiz by using the different blocks that are provided in a Scratch programming language. Okay, this is the main content that we are going to study in this chapter number 7. How to create a game and a quiz by using the different blocks that are provided by the Scratch programming language. Okay. So moving on to the chapter, first let us study what do you mean by a sensing block and how to use a sensing block. Okay, this is the first topic that we are going to cover in this chapter. We are going to study what do you mean by a sensing block and how to use this sensing block. First, look at the definition for a sensing block. A sensing block menu, they contain blue colored blocks in its list. Okay, wherever you see a blue colored blocks, that means that it is a sensing block. Okay, all these blue colored blocks, they are programmed in order to identify the activity that occurs in that particular project. Okay, this is what we mean by sensing block. Wherever you see a blue colored block in the list, that particular blue colored block is known as the sensing block, and this blue colored blocks, they are programmed in order to identify the activity that occurs in the project. So we have studied that sensing blocks, they are being used or they are being programmed in order to identify the activities that are going on inside a project. And some of the activities that sensing blocks detect are, first one is it will detect if the sprites, they are touching each other. Second activity that they can detect is they will ask the user a question. And the third one is they will display the answer. Okay, these are some of the activities that the sensing block detects. So students, which are the activities that sensing block menu detects? First one is it will detect whether the sprites, they are touching each other, or they will be asking the user a question, and they can also be used for displaying the answers. Okay, these are some of the uses, or these are the some of the activities that the sensing block menu detects. Okay, so sensing block menu means it will contain the blue colored blocks in its list. If you are seeing a blue colored block in the list, it means that it is a sensing block menu. Okay, and all these blocks, they are programmed in order to identify the activities that are conducting project, or that all the activities that are occurring inside a project. And some of the activities that sensing block menu dictates, or some of the uses of sensing block menus are, they will dictate whether the sprites, they are touching each other, or they will be asking the user a question, or they can be used for displaying the answers. Okay, these are some of the uses, or these are some of the activities which sensing block menu dictates. Okay. So now we have seen what we mean by a sensing block and what are some of the uses of this sensing block menu, or what are the activities that sensing block menu dictates. Okay. Now let us see how to use this sensing blocks in a Scratch project. Okay. For that you have to follow some steps, and now we are going to see those steps that we have to follow in order to use sensing blocks in a Scratch project. Look at the step number 1. You have to open the Scratch editor window and delete the cat sprite. And you have to click on choose the sprite from library button, and you have to choose any sprite from the people category. Okay, this is the first step. First step is you have to open the Scratch window, and first you have to delete the cat sprite. And you have to choose a sprite from the library button. Okay. This is the first step that you have to follow. Okay, and look at the second step. Now pick blocks from the block list and join them to create a script as shown in figure 7.1. Okay, after choosing the sprite from the library button, second step is you have to pick the blocks from the block list and you have to join them and you have to create a script like what you see in figure 7.1. Okay, that is step number 2. And step number 3, look, the ask the question and wait block allows the user to ask a question in the project. The user types the answer on the keyboard and presses the enter key. The answer will be displayed in a speech bubble on the stage. Okay, so the third step says that after creating all the blocks and we have created a script like what you see in figure 7.1. Now by using this blue colored blocks, which means they are the sensing blocks. Okay, by using this blue colored blocks we can ask questions in a project. The user can ask a question inside the project. Okay, for example, look at this, ask what's your name and wait. See, that has been written inside a blue colored block, which means that it is a sensing block, and the question, and we have studied that we can use a sensing block menu in order to ask a question. So here the user is asking a question, what's your name, and the user can type the answer by using the keyboard and they can press the enter key. Yeah, that is step number 3. Step number 3 means that by using this blue colored blocks or by using the sensing blocks, the user can ask a question inside the project and the user can type the answer by using the keyboard and they can press the enter key. Okay, this is step number 3. And step number 4 is that the answer block that displays the answer entered or typed by the user on the stage. It executes when it is placed on any other blocks. Okay, so you can see at the end of the script there is an blue colored block which shows say answer, which means that whatever answer it has been entered or typed by the user will be displayed over that particular block. Okay, and that particular block will execute when it is being placed on some other blocks. So these are the first 4 steps that you have to follow in order to use a sensing block in a Scratch project. Okay. So here what we are doing is that we are using the sensing blocks in order to ask the user a question. Okay, that is, users, they can ask a question by using the sensing block and the answers will be displayed through the blocks. This is what we are mainly doing here. First step is you have to open the Scratch editor window. You have to delete the cat sprite. Okay, then you have to choose a sprite from the library button. That is step number 1. And step number 2 is you have to pick the blocks from the block list and you have to join them and create a script like what you see in this figure 7.1. And third step is, here is where we are using the sensing blocks. By using the sensing blocks, the user can ask a question inside the project. The first question that the user asked is, what's your name? Okay, and below that you can see there is a say answer block, a blue colored block in which it is been written as say answer. Whatever question that you have asked before, that is, here you have asked what's your name. The answer for that particular question will be displayed over the block, blue colored block, say answer. Okay, and look at that figure, students. Here 2 questions are being asked by the user. First question is, what's your name? And below that they have written inside a blue colored block, say answer. Okay, so the answer for that particular question, what's your name, will be displayed in that particular block, say answer. Okay, and after that you can see it has been written as wait for 2 seconds. Okay, then what you see in the next block, it is a blue colored block and here we are asking another one question, second question. Here the user is asking, how old are you? Okay, and below that there is a blue colored block and it is been written as say answer. Okay, so the answer for that particular question, how old are you, will be displayed over here. Okay, so these are the first 4 steps that you have to follow in order to use a sensing block in a Scratch project. And look at step number 5. You have to type inside the white edible field of that particular blue colored block in order to add a question, like what you see in figure 7.1. Okay, you have seen how to ask a question. First question that we asked was, what's your name? Okay, while you are writing or while you are entering the question, you have to enter the question or type inside the white edible field of that particular blue colored block. Okay, this is what step number 5 says. And in order to run this particular script, you have to click on the green flag button that is present at the top of this particular script. Okay, and you have to type the answer when the sprite asks you the question. Okay, so these are the steps that you have to follow in order to use a sensing block in a Scratch project. Step number 1 is you have to open the Scratch editor window and you have to delete the cat sprite, and then you have to choose a sprite from the library button. Second step is by using the blocks from the block list, you have to join them and you have to create a script like what you see in figure 7. Okay, and see, we have studied that by using this sensing block we can ask, that is the users can ask a question. So here by using this blue colored block I am asking a question. First I am asking a question, what's your name? Okay, and below that in the next block is being provided for saying the answer of that particular question. So user can enter the answer to that particular question and press enter key. Okay, this is step number 3. And step number 5 says that if you want to write a question, you have to write it inside the white edible field of the blue colored block. Okay, and at last, if you want to run this particular script, you have to click on the green flag button. And when the sprite asks you the question, you have to type the answer for that particular question. Okay, so these are the steps that you have to follow in order to use a sensing block in a Scratch project. Now moving on to the next topic, let us study how to use the operator block. Okay, next topic is about how to use a operator block in Scratch project. Operator block means it has got a green colored block in its list, and these blocks are being used for performing mathematical operations in a Scratch programming. Okay, this is what I mean by operators block. It has got a green colored block in its list and it is used for performing mathematical operations in a Scratch program. Okay, so what you can say the difference between sensing block and operators block. Sensing block means it has got a blue colored blocks and it is used for detecting the activities which are occurring inside a project. Okay, that is what I mean by sensing block. Here operators block means it is a green colored blocks and they are being used for performing mathematical operations. Okay, these are the difference between sensing block and operators block. And this operators blocks, they can be either in a rectangular shape or in a hexagonal shape. Okay, these are the two shapes in which operators blocks can appear. They can either be in rectangle shape or in hexagonal shape. Okay, and look at this, a rectangular shape, it is used for performing mathematical operations, for example addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, etc. Okay, and an hexagonal shaped blocks, they are used for performing comparison. For example, if you want to display the result as either true or false, in such cases we use an hexagonal shaped blocks. Okay, so this is the difference between rectangular shaped blocks and hexagonal shaped blocks. Rectangular shaped blocks, they are being used for performing mathematical operations like addition, subtraction, division, etc. Okay, and hexagonal shaped blocks, they are used for performing comparisons. For example, if you want to display the result as either true or false, this is a comparison activity. In such cases, we can use the hexagonal shaped blocks. Okay, so this is all about operators block. Operator block, it has got green colored blocks in it, and these blocks, they are used for performing mathematical operations, and blocks, they can either be in rectangular shape or in hexagonal shapes. The rectangular shaped blocks, they are used for performing mathematical operations, and hexagonal shaped blocks, they are used for performing comparisons. And students, look at this figure 7.2. This is the script area of the operators block. Okay, and in this particular script you can see in the green colored blocks we can perform mathematical operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, etc. and also comparisons also are also be done. And you can see that for performing mathematical operations. For example, 1 plus 8, 2 minus 5, 4 by 2, this all are mathematical operations, and these operations, they are performed by using the rectangular blocks. Okay, and you can see there's a comparison that is been taking place. 2 equal to 2, this is a comparison, and for that we have used a hexagonal shaped blocks. Okay, so this is how the script area for an operator blocks looks like. And this operators block menus, they can also be used for performing string operations. What do you mean by a string? It is a sequence of characters that include letters, numbers, symbols and punctuation marks. And we can use this operator block menus in order to perform this string operation. So students, what do you mean by a string? It is a sequence of characters that include letters, numbers, symbols and punctuation marks. And by using the string operations, we can create quizzes, stories, games, etc. Okay. So once again, operator block menus, they can be used for performing string operations. And what do we mean by a string? A string, it is a sequence of characters that include letters, numbers, symbols and punctuation marks. Okay. So students, this is all about operator blocks. So students, till now we have seen how to use a sensing block and how to use a operator block. And by using these two blocks, that is sensing block and operator blocks, now let us study how to create a ball game. Okay. We are going to create a small game, a small simple ball game, and we have to follow some steps for creating this simple ball game. Okay. Now let us see which are those steps. Look at the first step. Open the scratch window and delete the cat sprite from the stage. Add the paddle and ball sprite on the stage. Choose the new background for the project as shown in figure 7.4. Okay, so the first step says that first you have to open the scratch window and you have to delete the cat sprite. And then you have to add two sprites onto the stage. Which are those two sprites? You have to add a paddle sprite and also a ball sprite onto the stage. And you have to choose a new background for your project, like what you see in figure 7.4. Okay, this is the first step that you have to follow. Look at the second step. Now create the script for the sprites as shown in figure 7.5 and 7.6. Okay, after adding the sprites, that is after adding the paddle and ball sprites onto the stage, second step says that you have to create the script for these two sprites. Okay, and what you see in figure 7.5 is the script for the ball sprite, and what you see in figure 7.6 is the script for the paddle sprite. Okay, so second step says that you have to create the script for this both sprites. Look at the third step. Click on the green flag button to run all the script. Once the ball starts moving on the stage, you have to move the mouse. The paddle on the stage moves along with the mouse. You have to save the ball from touching the red line at the bottom of the stage. Okay, this is where now our game starts, where our simple ball game starts. So in the third step, what you have to do is you have to click on the green flag button in order to run the scripts. And you will be seeing that the ball starts moving onto the stage. And at that point, you have to move the mouse. Okay, now what happens is that the paddle on the stage moves along with the mouse. Okay, so what your game is that you have to save the ball from touching the red line. Okay, so this is what your game is. In your third step, you have to click on the green flag button to run all the scripts. When the scripts starts running, your ball will start moving on the stage. Once the ball starts moving on the stage, you have to use the mouse, or you have to move the mouse. Once you move the mouse, according to the movement of the mouse, the paddle on the stage will start moving. And your game is you have to save the ball from touching the red line. Okay. So this is how you can create a simple ball game. Once again, first step is you have to open the scratch window and delete the cat sprite. Then you have to add two sprites onto the stage. First sprite is a paddle sprite and second sprite is a ball sprite. Then you have to add a new background for the project like what you see in figure 7.4. After adding the sprites onto the stage, you have to create the script for both the sprites. What you see in figure 7.5 and 7.6 is the script for the ball sprite and paddle sprite. After you have created the script for the sprites, you have to click on the green flag button in order to run this scripts. Okay. Once you click on the green flag button, the ball will start moving onto the stage. Once the ball starts moving on the stage, you have to move the mouse. And according to the movement of the mouse, the paddle on the stage will start moving. And your game is that you have to save the ball from touching that particular red line. Okay. So this is how you can create a simple ball game by using the sensing block menu and also by using the operator block menu. Students, if this picture figure 7.4, 7.5 and 7.6 is not clear for you from this picture, in your textbook take page number 78. You will be able to see this particular figures. Okay. Now moving on to the next topic, let us study how to add a variable to our ball game. Okay, first let us see what do you mean by a variable. A variable is used to store values inside a program. Okay, this is the definition for a variable. A variable is used to store values in a programs, and these values, they can be either a number or a string. A numerical variable, it can be either a positive or negative value. At the same time, a string value, they can be a combination of letters, numbers, etc. Okay, this is what we mean by a variable. A variable, it is used for storing values inside a program. This is the definition for a variable. And values, they can be of two types. It can either be a number or it can be a string. If our value, it is a number, then our numerical variable can be either a positive value or a negative value. Whereas if we are using a string variable can be a combination of letters and numbers. Okay. So this is what we mean by a variable. And now let us see how to add a variable to our ball game. That is, till now we have seen that in the ball game, the ball will start moving on the stage, and what you have to do is you have to save it from touching the red colored line. Okay, that was the target or the objective of your ball game. Okay, here what we are going to do is we are going to add a variable named score to our project in order to calculate the score while you are playing the game. Okay, so if you want to know what is the score of your game, you have to add a variable named score to our project. Okay, so now let us see how we can create a project by using or by adding this score variable into our ball game. So in this game, what happens is that initially our score value will start from 0 and it will increase by 1 every time the ball will touch the paddle. And if the ball touch the red colored line, the score variable will decrease by 1. Okay, this is what is going to happen in our game. Initially our score value will be 0. And if our ball is touching the paddle, our score value will increase by 1. And if the ball is touching the red colored line, the score value will decrease by 1. Okay, this is what is going to happen in our game. And what are the steps that we have to follow in order to add the score variable to our project? Okay, that is what we are going to study now. Okay, the steps that we have to follow in order to add the score variable into our project. Look at the first step. You have to open the ball game project and select the ball sprite and click on the data block menu. The data block menu allows you to create a new variable. Okay, so step number 1C is that first you have to open the ball game project that you have already created. Okay, then you have to select the ball sprite and you have to click on the data block menu. The data block menu will allow us to create a new variable. Okay, that is step number 1. You have to click on the data block menu. Second step is click on the make a variable button from the list and the new variable box will appear like what you see in figure 7.7a. Okay, once you have clicked on the data block menu, you have to click on the make a variable button from that particular list and the new variable box will appear like what you see in figure 7.7a. And third step is you have to type the score inside the variable name box and you have to click for the sprite only radio button. Okay, so after opening the new variable box button, you have to type the score inside that variable name box and you have to give the option as for the sprite only radio button. Okay, and now look at step number 4. After entering the score inside the variable name box and after clicking the for this sprite radio button, you have to click on the OK. Okay, the variable block will appear in the block list like what you see in figure 7.7b. Okay, so now our variable block will look like our figure 7.7b. Okay, and look at step number 5. The score variable appears on the stage showing the values. The score variable has bold written along with it because you have selected the variable only for the bold sprite. So now currently you have typed the score inside the variable name box and you have clicked on the OK button. And finally the variable block will appear like what you see in figure 7.7b. Okay, so currently now our variable block is ready. Now what happens is that when you look at the stage, you will be able to see the score variable at the top of the stage. Look at figure 7.8. At the top of this stage, you will be able to see the bold score given and the value is being given as 0. Okay, so currently now our score variable will appear on the stage at the top corner of the stage and it is showing the value as 0. Okay, if you want to see the picture of the stage, look at figure 7.8. Okay, this is what step number 5 says. And look at step number 6. Place the score blocks in the existing script as shown in figure 7.9. Edit the white editable field of the blocks. And step number 7 says that save the project and run the script. The score variable increases by 1 each time when the ball touches the paddle. If the ball touches the red line on the stage, the score variable decreases by its value by 1. Okay, so now what happens is that you have to save the project and you have to run the script. And when you run the script, the ball will start moving onto the stage. Okay, and when you move the mouse, the paddle on the stage will start moving along with the mouse. So our game is that we have to save the ball from touching the red line. Okay, if the ball is touching the red line, the score variable will decrease by 1. And if the ball is touching the paddle, the score variable will increase by 1. Okay. So these are the steps that you have to follow in order to add a score variable into our ball project. Once again, first step is you have to open the ball game project and you have to select the ball sprite and click on the data block menu. Okay. If you want to create a new variable, you can do it by clicking on the data block menu. Okay. Once you click on the data block menu, you have to click on the make a variable button from that particular list. Okay, and a new variable box will appear like what you see in figure 7.7a. Okay, what you see in that particular figure is a new variable dialog box, and in that particular box you have to type the score inside the variable name box, and 2 radio buttons are being provided, and inside that 2 radio buttons you have to click on the radio button for this sprite only. Okay, then you have to click on the OK button. Once you click on the OK button, the variable block will appear in the block list like what you see in figure 7.7b. So now currently our variable block is ready. And now if you are looking onto the stage, you will be able to see the score variable appearing at the top of the stage and it is showing the value as 0. Okay. Now you have to save the particular project and you have to run the script. Okay, and the score variable will increase the value by 1 each time when the ball will touch the paddle, and if the ball is touching the red line on the stage, the score value will decrease by 1. Okay, so these are the steps that you have to follow in order to add the score variable to our project. So currently now we have seen how to create a ball game, and then we have seen how to add a variable to our ball game. Okay. And now moving on to the last topic of this chapter, let us study how to create a quiz by using the Scratch programming language. Okay, for doing this you have to follow some steps, and look at the first step. You have to open the Scratch window and delete the cat sprite from the stage. Add the Alex and Octopus sprite from the library. Okay, so step number 1 says that you have to open the Scratch window and you have to first delete the cat sprite. And you have to add 2 sprites from the library. Those 2 sprites are Alex and Octopus sprites. Like what you see in figure 7.10, you have to add Alex and Octopus sprite to our stage. That is step number 1. Step number 2 says that again you have to add the backdrops. Here you have to add 2 backdrops onto the stage. They are chalkboard and underwater too. Okay. Like what you see in figure 7.11, after adding the sprites, you have to add 2 backdrops onto our stage. They are chalkboard and underwater too. Look at figure 7.11, okay, in order to see the 2 backdrops. And step number 3 says that after adding the sprites and after adding the backdrop onto the stage, you have to create the script for those sprites. Okay, and what you see in figure 7.12a and 7.12b are the scripts for the 2 sprites. Okay, in your textbook take page number 80 and look at figure 7.12a and 7.12b. They are the 2 scripts which are being written for the Octopus sprite and also for the Alex sprite. Okay, so third step says that we have to create the script for Alex sprite and Octopus sprite. Look at step number 4. Click on the green flag button in order to run the script. When the sprite will ask a question, you have to type the correct answer on the keyboard and press enter. The sprite will ask the next question only when you give the correct answer for the first question. Okay. So after creating the script for the sprite, you have to click on the green flag to run all the scripts. So when you click on the green flag button, our game starts or our quiz starts, and the sprite will ask a question first. If you are knowing the answer, you have to type the correct answer by using the keyboard and you have to press the enter key. If the answer is correct, then the sprite will ask the next question. Okay, the sprite will ask the next question only if the first answer that you have given is correct. Okay, after this, if you want to stop the quiz, you have to click on the red stop button. Okay, so these are the steps that you have to follow in order to create a quiz. Step number 1 is you have to open the Scratch window and delete the cat sprite from the stage. And then you have to add 2 sprites from the library. The 2 sprites are Alex and Octopus sprites. Then you have to add 2 backdrops onto the stage. They are chalkboard and underwater 2 backdrops. Okay, after adding this sprites and backdrops onto the stage, you have to create the script for the sprites. Okay, after creating the scripts for the sprite, you have to click on the green flag button in order to run the scripts. And now our quiz starts. So first step is the sprite will ask us a question. If you are knowing the answer, you have to type the correct answer on the keyboard and press the enter key. Okay, if your answer for the first question is correct, then the sprite will ask you the next question. Okay, sprite will ask you the next question only if the answer to the first question is correct. And if you want to stop the quiz, you have to click on the red stop button. Okay, so these are the steps that you have to follow in order to create a quiz by using the Scratch programming language. So students, with this we come to the end of this particular chapter, chapter number 7. In this chapter, first we studied how to use the sensing block. Okay, sensing block means it contains blue colored blocks in its list. It is used for identifying the activities that occur in a project. Then we studied how to use the operator blocks. Operator block, they has got green colored blocks in its list, and they are used for performing mathematical operations. Then we saw the steps of how to create a simple ball game. And then we saw how to add the score variable into our simple ball game. Okay, and at last we saw how to create a quiz by using the Scratch programming language. Okay, so these are the topics that we covered in this particular chapter. Okay, hope all of you are clear with all the topics, and if you are having any doubt, you can contact me in my number. Either you can call me or you can ask me through my WhatsApp. Okay, I'll be available at any time. Thank you, students.